Welcome back to Scuba Diver Live and another live stream that aims to educate, inspire, and hopefully bring a bit of fun into your house this evening. Now, remember, if you like what we're doing, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and then you won't miss out on any of our future installments. Now, remember as well, if you're watching live and you've got any questions you'd like to fire to our guests, shoot them across and we'll try and put them to them at the end of the show. Now, before we get into our guests, just like to say thank you to our sponsors, Narked at 90. For all your technical diving needs, check out their website. They've got everything on there. The great guys. Now, on with tonight's show. Basically, we are looking to travel around the world in the company of a little photo duo, Richard Stevens and Hailey Elizabeth, who have just basically made a little niche for themselves doing this. So I'd like to bring them on now. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Hey, Mark.
Hi.
How you doing?
Welcome on the show. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And it's the second time we've had a duo on the show where one is in one room of the house and one is with the other. It was quite funny. We did it with Mario and his other half, which was quite amusing as well, where we're talking away and they're actually in separate rooms of the same house. So we know what you like.
It's all right. I get a bit of peace and quiet.
Oh, it's already started and we haven't even got into it yet. Right, so before we get started into all the nitty-gritty questions, I always like to ask this, which is, how did you guys get into diving in the first place, and who or what was the main draw to bring you into the underwater realm?
Do you know what? I was one of those people that every time I went on a holiday, I would do like, you know, when you go to a resort and you can do the tri-dive in the pool. I think I probably did about 8 of those across 8 holidays spread across about 4 years. And it wasn't until I went to the Maldives. That's where I learned to dive in the Maldives. 2007, I think it was. And I ended up spending pretty much 13 of the 14 days I was in the Maldives doing my open and my advanced. And it was a weird one because I'd done so many resort dives beforehand, it almost felt like I could dive like from the word go. So yeah, just from a draw perspective, like, you know, I've said previously, there's so many inspirational people out there, and you can say names like David Attenborough, but I think for me it's the draw of the unknown. Like there's an old saying in the scuba diving world that we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about our own oceans. And you know, there's such a mystical story. There's such a draw to, you know, you can watch stuff on the TV and you can watch a nature documentary, and pretty much anyone that you meet would have seen something amazing on the TV. But to actually see that amazing thing with your own eyes, you know, I've seen things that a lot of my non-diving friends have never seen or will never see. And, you know, they can only, you know, see it through an edited version on the TV or listen to me bore on about it. So, yeah, that's the biggest draw for me, just the sense of the unknown.
Well, mine's slightly different in that I did a tri-dive with my dad when I was quite young, maybe 14, 15, and that was in Mallorca. And it wasn't a great experience, I'll be honest. So I didn't dive again until I met Richard, and like he said, he wouldn't stop talking about diving, and he encouraged me to go on a trip that he was running to Turkey, and I just got the bug there and then, and also learned to do my advanced in the Maldives. I think what annoyed Richard the most was I had 7 dives and I just told him that I was going to go off and do a liverboard in the Maldives to do my advanced. And he was just really shocked. He's like, that's not how you do it. But it was a really great experience, and it kind of threw me into this underwater world. And from that moment, I was hooked.
Well, at least you did it properly. That's what I like to see there, that you go there and you've had a tri-dive in the past, just one tri-dive. And then you have another go and you're straight into it. You don't do a Richard where you just do tri-dives for like the entire rest of your life. You could have been diving for another 10 years if you'd done it.
Too lazy.
No, I throw myself into stuff. I think I've always been quite impulsive, and if I get something in my mind, I'll just kind of go for it. And that was what I was like, and it just hasn't really stopped.
It's funny how you like a Maldives trip. I forgot about that because when we met through work, you know, we were friends for many years before we actually got together as a couple. And Hailey had just split up with she'd come on the Turkey trip the year before with a group of friends, and it was like the following year she split up with her boyfriend at the time, Chris. And she kind of said, "Oh, you know, I don't know what to." And I was like, "You know what? Just go on a dive holiday, go away, go on your own, you know." And I'm thinking in my head, you know, go where somewhere like Europe or go to Egypt, you know. And then she comes to me messaged me the next day. She's like, "Oh, I booked a trip." And I was like, "Oh, have you? Where are you going?" And she went, "I'm going to the Maldives." I was like, "Oh, you've only done 4 dives. You can't go to the Maldives."
7. I've done 7.
What island are you going to? And she went, "Oh no, I'm going on the liveaboard."
I don't think Rich had even been on a liveaboard in the Maldives at that point.
I'm so envious. I'd like to.
I like it. Go big or go home. That's the way forward.
Pretty much.
Well, then you said so you were both separately got into diving, but anyway, that kind of brought you together. So then you ended up becoming a couple, and then you became Black Manta Photography. And as I said before in the intro, you've carved a bit of a niche for yourselves, traveling around the world as a bit of a photojournalist duo, with one of you shooting stills and one of you shooting video. So how did the whole Black Manta Photography thing come around, and who decided who was doing what? Or was there a fight over who was doing the video and who was doing the stills?
Well, I started taking photographs actually because Richard encouraged me to, and was good friends with Nigel Wade, who was such an inspirational photographer and person, and he really kind of got me into it. And I think at the same time, Richard was just getting into video, so it just happened naturally. It wasn't kind of you do video and I'll do stills. Although there are some moments where Richard's got a better camera than me now, and he'll attempt to take a still, and I will get a little bit twitchy. I'm like, that's not your job. You take the video. So I think it just happened naturally. But yeah, Black Manta Photography came about. I think Richard's got an easier way of telling this story because he used to ramble on to his friends about diving. Go on, you tell it.
Well, do you know what? For starters, the whole photo video thing, I think as any scuba diver, you know, when you learn to dive, probably the first bit of equipment that you actually own is either a GoPro or some kind of underwater, you know, click and shoot camera. And I think I probably spent the first 100 or so of my dives being one of those really annoying scuba divers that just whizzes to something, takes a picture, whizzes to something, take a bit, you know, everything's blue, green, absolutely, you know, rubbish photo. You know, I wasn't a photographer kind of thing. And then I probably spent the next 200 just diving, you know, no GoPro, no camera, no nothing, which I'm quite appreciative for. You know, I think it helps you concentrate on what you're doing, your skills and your diving. Although I'm sure there's people out there who will say that I still need to learn. But the whole the video thing came about for me because there's so many people taking photographs. You know, there are with camera technology and, you know, social media these days, there are so many amazing, there are some amazing underwater photographers out there. And I find with video is that I see a lot of people shoot video, or a lot of people use a GoPro for video, but the laborious task of editing it together is, people just can't be bothered. And maybe I've just got a really weird, boring nature that I like sitting for 12 hours at a time to edit a video that's about 2 minutes long that no one watches. But that was the thing for me. I just wanted to be a bit different. Everyone was taking photos. Video doesn't seem to be many people, and I think I guess off the back of that, and I think Hailey would agree that that's what kind of complements us as a couple, because we know lots of, you know, pros or underwater photography people where there are a couple and they're both shooting photographs. So I guess at least we kind of bring a different angle to it. It's sometimes nice to get Hailey in the shot of video when she's, you know, taking the photograph, and you can kind of see her getting set up. There's a photo in one of the rolls later on of she kind of done one of those twirly shots.
Is that the technical term?
I don't know. Is that a technical term, twirling?
I don't know.
No exposure and a spinny thing.
We'll go with it.
I've you know, somewhere on a.
There it is.
One, look at that! It's just quite magic. I've actually got I've got some video footage. I don't think it's ever seen the light of day. Actually, I should dig it out. But I've actually got the photo. Do you know what? We was on a trip with Duxie. It was on one of his photo trips. An incredible trip, not just for the diving, but for his own tuition and the time that he gives out on his courses. But I've literally got about 2 minutes of footage of like Duxie doing it, Hailey doing it, and then him saying, no, 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 do this, and then she'll do it, and then she's showing him the picture, and he's going, no, 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 like, do this, and then she'll do it again, and then he's like, yeah, that's it, you got it. Like, it's quite a funny.
Or either that, or he just gave up and was like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So like we said, that was how you started off, with one of you doing stills, one doing video. But where was the Black Manta photography bit came from, and where did that name come from as well?
Hailey's responsible for the name.
Oh wow, he's
Yeah,
given
that
it
one.
to me.
Well, you claim it as yours, so
Yeah.
you have it.
Well, I think the idea was probably Richard's, to try and kind of channel our content into something that was tailored to travel and diving, so that we would stop kind of boring our friends and family on Facebook with just monotonous shots of the underwater world. But the name itself actually came from a trip that we went on to Socorro, and the elusive and quite rare black manta that you can see over there. Now, normally mantas obviously have white markings on, and they have a unique kind of pattern to them, so they're all very, very different. But the black mantas are completely black, and they just look incredible under the water. And when we saw one in Socorro, it was one of those moments that you'll kind of always have with you, where you feel really privileged to see something like that. And after the trip, we just kind of agreed that actually it was a pretty good name, and you know, it will be a good memory for us. It was one of our first major dive trips, and you know, mantas are one of my favorite animals, so that's where it came from, and we just went with it.
Yeah, you know, it never started out either as you know, this was going to be a brand. You know, we were never going to try and be something from it. As Hailey said, it purely was just a platform for social media for us to put our diving content, because our non-diving friends used to we were really boring, because also, you know, all we shared was diving stuff. So it kind of started so that you had a diving platform to share stuff, and a normal personal stuff where you talk about the TV or whatever it is that you talk about social media. But it just kind of really rolled from there. Like I started to do like some of the YouTube stuff that kind of grew, so that kind of grew that arm of it. And you know, I don't take anything for granted, and I feel hugely, you know, lucky to be in a situation that we're in, that, you know, we are lucky enough to be in a job that is very convenient with holiday. Sometimes we have to work that holiday a little bit. There's no one watching from work. But yeah, like we've been in great situations where we've got to travel to some amazing places and seen some amazing things and meet some incredible people. You know, it's like that old Paddy slogan, isn't it? You know, dive and meet new friends, and that's essentially kind of what the last 4 or 5 years has been for us.
Yeah, that's your new slogan. Then you can have Black Manta photography, travel and meet new friends. So, like you said, it was a way for you to put all your diving content together and everything. So you've got the website, you've got a blog. So you'd started putting the blog stuff up and everything. And did you start noticing that you were getting people were actually starting to follow that and everything? Because you obviously then expanded on from it being your travelogues, if you like, and collating all the wonderful places you've been around the world, but you started doing some like review stuff as well. Yeah,
I did. Well, we both dabbled in that a little bit, didn't we, Hailey? So I think you did the Truly wetsuit quite early on.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the first few was. I think anyone that follows us knows that we have quite a close affiliation with Mike's Dive Store, who is incidentally has been voted Britain's UK's #1 dive retailer. But you know, we've got a great relationship with Steve. You know, he's a good guy. We see him quite often. You know, we have been on a trip with him. He's hugely funny. I mean, anyone that knows Steve personally will know just how funny he is. So it was great to have that relationship with him. And it kind of started out that I think I actually bought some kit with real money, and you know, kind of reviewed it, and I put it on the channel, and it got some views, and it just kind of spiraled a little bit from there. I don't know, the reviews are a funny one, because I think anyone who's seen a video of themselves hates to hear their voice, hates to see themselves on video. I think Hailey will laugh and agree that the first few I did, I think I heard almost every fourth word.
I'm not saying anything.
this wetsuit is, it's really good and keeps you dry. But it's like anything, it's practice, isn't it? Like, I guess I've got more used to seeing myself on video. Obviously, I'm editing the video, so I used to cringe editing the videos at the start. Oh my God, this is horrendous. But, the feedback that we've got on YouTube has been good. We get lots of comments. I think our subscriber count is up to sort of around about 2,500 now, but it's growing quite. I mean, we only hit 1,000 this time last year, so we've grown by 1,500 in 12 months. So we must be doing something right. I've got a couple of videos that are over 40,000 views. There's an for you, and another one. People clearly find it engaging, and that kind of drives me to want to do more. I like doing the kit stuff. I like seeing new kit, what's coming on the market. Yeah.
I think it helps as well that we can review different things. So I think what's been really popular for Richard and the channel is a lot of the dive computers and the tech side. He goes into a lot of explanation and, gives the pros and cons, isn't afraid to kind of say which one that he would buy himself. Whereas I think for me, it's more about kind of getting, more women into diving. So, like wetsuits and masks that fit and all that kind of thing. So I think we just bring a kind of different spin. Richard's 6'4", so he can review quite a lot of things that would suit people, of that height. And then, I think what's been really good is also just sharing our experiences. I think people really relate to the human part, and I think that's why social media has become so popular. Is because you'd normally go off what your friends would recommend or what your friends would say, and I think that's a little bit of what YouTube and Instagram is kind of trying to do, is just give first-hand experience so that you feel that you can buy something and someone else has already done the hard work for you in terms of whether it's good, bad, or whatever.
Yeah, and I think it's important to be really honest when you're reviewing something. Like Mark, you do loads of reviews for the magazine and stuff. So what I don't want to do is to point out as well that most of the stuff we review we don't keep. Like we borrow it, we loan it, we review it, we give it back in the condition that we got it. Obviously if it's a wetsuit or something, that's a little bit different, but everything goes back box. So I'm very clear about that, because I don't want to be seen of kind of trying to be bought to give a good review or something. I want to give an honest review. I don't want to be nasty about something. If it's something I don't like, I try to be constructive of, these are the great things I like, this is some of the things that I didn't like, or if I'm comparing something, I try and call that the good and bad in everything, which I think has been something that's been really, really important for the channel. I think that's certainly, judging from the feedback and the comments, I think that's kind of what the our viewers particularly like. But yeah, they've all kind of grown well hand in hand. The YouTube, the Facebook. We are quite lazy with Instagram, I have to be honest. Hailey was my Instagrammer, but she's got really lazy. I can't remember a lot.
Tell her how it is. That's just no. In our normal kind of full-time jobs, I work for a living, whereas Richard gets a lot more free time.
Oh my gosh, it's bullshit. Don't say that, for God's sake.
Oh, I'm joking. Yeah, we probably need to do more with Instagram. It's I think YouTube has been the focus, but yes, feedback heard. Thanks, Richard. I'll get on it.
And I'm sure, like you guys, you do a lot of social media for Scuba Diver Mag. It's a full-time thing, isn't it? It's not just the Facebook, the Instagram, the website, the Twitter. There's so much going on. Like we do have jobs, and we try and have a life outside of having a job. I sometimes, if I'm doing video reviews, or I was editing stuff from our last trip just a few weeks ago, and I didn't see the light of day for probably about 9 days, because I was working and then editing stuff in the evening at weekends. It's a great achievement when you've done it, but my God, it takes some time sometimes.
It is quite easy to get stuck in front of the computer. But talk about that. Now, you touched on this a little bit, but I know you've said there a little bit about you sometimes feel a bit awkward when you were seeing it, you hated hearing your own voice and stuff like that. But do you enjoy doing the to-camera work now you've got a bit more into it, or are you happy being behind the camera?
No, I don't mind doing the to-camera stuff. Like I'm not really a sort of person. I'm not a shrinking violet. I'm not kind of someone that is unheard. I like to, as I say, I'm trying to. Thanks, Hailey. Do you want to start laughing at me? He's not even been drinking either. if I know what I'm talking about, then I like to have a good go at having a voice.
You're better at it than I am. I'm not keen in front of the camera. Rich has got a lot more confidence and is better at it than I am.
I've got more intelligence when it comes to speaking. I just spurt out what words come into my head. Hailey will speak in a very sort of sensible and measured manner. Generally blurt out what the thing that first comes.
Well, at least it gives you both a distinct style.
Yeah.
Again, but what I do like doing review stuff, and I'm quite comfortable being in front of the camera. So yeah, I've grown into it. I've always enjoyed it, but I guess I've kind of grown into it a little bit more.
No, I get you.
Falling in love with my own voice, you know.
Now, you've obviously written several articles for us at Scuba Dive Magazine, but probably the first assignment that we actually sent you on was to dive with great white sharks at Guadalupe Island. Now, I know that was one that was on your bucket list. So when we offered it to you, you did kind of do a great white shark and bit our hand off.
I would never forget that when Ross sent me the message, do you and Hailey want to do the vortex? And I
thought he was kidding.
Huh?
I thought you were kidding when you told me. I was like really confused.
Obviously, the dive show the year before was the vortex only came out April 2019, and they were at the dive show 2018. You know, and it's amazingly looking lush boat. You know, absolute luxury liverboard. There's a little bit of footage from that trip, but I remember him saying to me, like, do you fancy doing the vortex? And in my head, I'm thinking, I don't know. The only vortex I can think of is the vortex, the Guadalupe vortex. And surely it doesn't mean that. And he was like, yeah, no, I'm in the great white shark trip. Honestly, I think I fell through the window, didn't I, when I told you that night?
Yeah, it was one of those things that you never really think you're ever going to get to do. And the whole time we were pinching ourselves, and it wasn't until we were in the water and you're face to face with the great white that you kind of go, this is actually happening, you know, a dream come true.
Yeah. Hailey said it's like a bucket list trip, and we were going through a bit of a phase where we were doing about 2 or 3 bucket list trips a year. So we would have got there, but I think for us it was, you know, it's a long way to go for essentially 3 days in a cage, and then you come back again. So we left the UK on a Saturday. We didn't get on the boat until the Monday, and we were back in the UK on the Friday afternoon.
Yeah,
mental, like mental.
We were so lucky, weren't we, as well? The conditions were just amazing. Like, you didn't want to get out the water. Like, normally Rich will be doing like 4 or 5 dives a day, and I'll probably do 3 or 4 because I get tired. But in this scenario, I did not want to get out of the cage. You're kind of just below the surface of the water, and you've got a reg in your mouth that connects to the surface. And apart from the cold, you could stay in there, you know, all day long. I think the maximum that I got to was kind of 2.5 hours, and then I was starting to really lose feeling in my limbs. But you'd get out, and then you'd be like, right, when can I get back in again? Because you'd see like 4 or 5 great whites at one time, and you didn't know where to look. You were just overwhelmed with the experience, or I was definitely. I know Rich was as well, but it was unreal. It was like a dream.
It's an incredible trip because, like, you know, the boat itself is probably one of the most incredible liveaboards I've ever been on. You know, it's the same size as, you know, anyone that's been to Socorro or Guadalupe. If you've been on the Bellamy, for example, part of the Nautilus fleet, it's the same size boat as that. The Nautilus, I think, sleeps 30 guests. The Vortex sleeps 14. You know, the boat is built for luxury. All the cabins are, you know, they're like suites. They're enormous. We only had 10 guests on our trip, so, you know, we had this massive entire boat, you know, to ourselves. You know, there it is. Nearly got hit by a seagull with a drone actually on that one. But I tell you something, Mark. Like, I mean, anyone that knows me or knows us, I'm a big shark fan, and I think any scuba diver out there will you know, say that they absolutely love sharks. You can see great whites on the TV, and you can be in awe of what's going on. You know, you can see photographs and stuff, but until you see your first great white shark under the water with your own eyes, honestly, it's the most majestic feeling. Honestly, it's the most majestic feeling. You know, the funny thing about Guadalupe is it's kind of got this really powerful aura about it. You know, it's it's like the land that time forgot. It's a bit like Jurassic Park, isn't it? You know, you've kind of got, you know, there's nothing but open Pacific with this rock sticking out of it. It's got so much energy as a place. But to see your first great white is just, it's breathtaking. You know, you're talking about a fish that's 15, 16 foot long. You know, that's how big they were when we were there. But it's the girth. It's, you know, you're talking about, if it was laying on the floor, it's going to be 5 foot tall, 4 or 5 foot tall, and then you've got the dorsal fin. And when this thing goes past you, it's taller than a car, and you know, as long as a minibus. And when it glides past you, like 2 foot from your eyes, honestly, it's the most.
And they watch you. They've got distinct personalities. Like each of the sharks had different personalities, and when they come past you, their eyes follow you. And you'd think that that's like terrifying. I think most people who don't scuba dive think we're crazy. But it's just this whole like connection between, you know, humans and underwater animals, and you respect them and they're watching you. And it's just, an incredible experience. And you feel very small. You feel like actually we're not the dominant race. You feel like, you know, we're a guest in these incredible creatures universe. And it made me feel really humble to kind of experience it.
Yeah, I mean, diving with any shark is such a privilege. It doesn't matter what species of shark it is. But, you know, anyone who's thought about going to Guadalupe and has been put off by, you know, it's you're either flying into San Diego and then bussing down to Ensenada and then out to, you know, overnight. It's a 18, 20-hour trip?
Yeah, something like that.
On the boat out to Guadalupe. Or you're flying down into Mexico and then travelling up and then going out. So whichever way you're looking at it, if you're going from the UK, you're going to be travelling halfway around the world. If you're not adding on a trip, then you're potentially going to spend a few days in a cage, and then you're going to come home again. Anyone who's balked at spending the money or travelling that distance, I tell you, it's the best thing. Even though we were in a cage and we weren't free, you know, out swimming with them, it's the best thing I think we've ever done. Like just to see them is just, honestly, mate, it's absolutely mind blowing.
I have to say, I was very jealous of this one because that is on my bucket list trip. I've seen great whites, but I've done it in South Africa twice, and it is amazing. There you're doing it on snorkel in a cage as opposed to on a hooker line, and it is still very. I know exactly what you mean. The first time you see them, the sheer size as they cruise by, but the difference is the visibility. So the visibility we had off South Africa was maybe 5-6 meters. So it is impressive, but they kind of surprise you because they just pop out of the green, they're there in your face, and then they're gone again. But like that footage you showed there, where you see this submarine coming through endless blue water towards you, or you can see 4 or 5 in one shot.
That's it.
You know, nowhere else really you can do that sort of thing, unless you go down to Australia and get the blue water down there, which is even further to go.
Yeah, I mean, the 3 days we were in the cage, 2.5 days were absolutely crystal clear, no wind, no bloom, no nothing, and then halfway through the last day, that plankton bloom. There's footage where you can kind of see it coming along the coast, but when it kind of got to the boat, it was. I imagine it was probably like trying to dive in the UK. It was like it was a little bit warmer, but. Yeah, honestly, it's an amazing trip. If anyone's thinking about doing it, it's for something different.
Definitely.
Do it.
Definitely gets a thumbs up. Well, talking about trips, that brings us on to the next question. As we mentioned before, you have travelled rather extensively to the point where I was exceptionally jealous when we were sat having a drink down in London. So what are some of your favourite locations and why should people go there?
I don't think we've got enough time, have we?
Such a difficult question as well. Like, how do you pick?
That's like we get so many people, like divers and non-divers, that say, you know, where's your favourite place to dive? That's like asking someone who's got a load of kids, which is your favourite, you know, child, because you know you've got there's amazing places for, you know, pelagic stuff, big stuff, whether it be you know, Maldives, Pacific. You've got a fantastic macro, Philippines, Indonesia, I absolutely love. You've got wrecks, you know, Red Sea, you can't rule out the Red Sea. You've got wrecks, you've got tropical waters, you've got reefs, you can see sharks, you can see mantas, friendly people. It's a 5-hour flight, it's cheap. You know, you can't knock it, but...
Yeah. I mean, if you were to rate it on how many times we've returned somewhere, then Roots Red Sea would be at the top of the list, because Richard's been, I don't know, 10 times. I've been 4 times. You've been several times as well, Mark. So it's like, it's one of those places that you just, you know, it's so relaxed and you just can dive to your heart's content. And the house reef is spectacular every single time. And I think, you know, I became a better diver at Roots, and I got familiar with, you know, the North Reef, the South Reef, the Pinnacle. I made friends with a porcupine. What was it, a burrfish? I think it was a burrfish, yeah. We'd always see it, not a porcupine. Yeah, and I think for me, like, in terms of going back to somewhere, that says how much you love a place. And, you know, we always return to the Red Sea, and the Philippines is probably the other one. The Magic Resorts, we've been back twice, and we're going again. So I think, you know, it's the nature of the dive resort and the dive sites, and also the people. I think that's a big part for Richard and I. If we get along with the people, if they're friendly, if you feel at home, because a big part of kind of the dive community is like a home away from home. So I think, yeah, for me, it would probably be the Red Sea or the Philippines, even though we've been to so many amazing places. I think because I just would love to go back again and again. And I don't think I'd ever get bored.
Yeah, it's like the list. I mean, certainly for me, Guadalupe. You know, I know we weren't scuba diving, but you know that was an incredible trip for me. Yeah. Roots, as Hailey said, I have been 8 times, and I will keep going back because it's such an incredible place to go in Egypt. You know, it's a liveaboard on land, and anyone that's been to Roots will know just how good that is. Philippines, I think, was my first macro trip. We've done Magic Islands and Magic Oceans, and we're going back again for the 3rd time on a trip that we're running next April. So looking forward to that, getting back to there. Allure and Komodo, we did Allure and Komodo with Duxie. You know, Allure. I'd imagine Allure being like a lot of dive destinations were in the 60s. You know, it's just untouched. I don't know if you've got to Allure. It's an absolute mission to get to. You know, we flew. I think we flew Singapore, Bali, Kupang, and then to Allure.
Yeah, but it's a long way to go.
You know, I think the transfer from the airport to the resort, the Alami Allure resort, was just as long as the flights were.
Probably.
You know, you're driving through, you know, some really really poor villages or poor areas of Indonesia, and then you kind of just come to this absolute oasis in the middle of nowhere. But the reefs, the diving were just absolutely in Allure. Yeah. Truck Lagoon, you know, for anyone that's a wreck lover, you know, you can't beat Truck or Chuke, whatever you want to call it these days. But you know, Truck Lagoon, you know, seeing submarine wrecks, or you know, the famous San Francisco Maru. You know, the deck of that hull is at 55 meters, I think it was. The deck
55.
You know, some of these images that Hailey shot, you know, the Mandarin fish. This is on the house reef at Magic Islands where we're going next year. You know, but they're there in abundance every single night. It's just an absolutely incredible place. I love the Maldives. You know, we've been there a few times. Tupataha, Philippines again. We've only been there once. Would love to go back to Tupataha. Like
it's too many places.
Yeah, like the list is endless. Of you know, we like to go to. I try, if we can, to go to somewhere that's off the beaten track. I don't want to go to like normal resorty areas that everyone and his dog's been to, but. This is incredible. I mean, the world's a big place, and there's so much of it to see. We just want to try and see as much of it as we can.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we've got to ask this one. Big stuff or little stuff? Little critters, big animals. Which is your favourite?
Oh,
that is such a tough question.
For me, what you're thinking, okay, I'm going to say big stuff because I love sharks. You know, having a shark or a manta ray in a wide-angle lens, you know, in slow motion looks fantastic. But I do have a love for filming macro stuff because it doesn't move very fast. I can mess around a little bit with. So I'm doing video. I'm faffing around a little bit with video lights and focusing and whatnot. So macro stuff. Look, nudies are fantastic because they don't move. You know, you can mess around to your heart's content, get it in focus. But sharks for me, definitely.
Yeah, I think big stuff is definitely my favorite, just because the experience of a manta swimming by or a whale shark is just like nothing else. but it's definitely easier to take photographs of things that don't move and don't fill up your lens too much, and you can just spend some time getting that shot. So I think I find macro easier, but there's nothing quite like, you know, seeing a shark and even just the kind of experience of when lots of things happen. So when we did a sardine dive in the Philippines, and, you know, 10 minutes into the dive and we were like, what's going on? We've not seen anything. And then I look up and there's just this cloud of black sardines, you know, like this huge dark shadow that's just looming over you. And then within seconds, just surrounded by all these sardines. It was just incredible. So I'd probably say things like that as well. It's not just one big thing. It's like the experience of so much life all around you. I think it's my favorite thing.
This clip that you're showing now, this was anyone will know like the Shotgun or the Cauldron. It's quite a famous dive site there. You're kind of like it's almost like a big amphitheatre bowl, which channels up sort of high and very narrow into what they call the Shotgun. So you've got I mean, it's current. It's not whipping you, but it's moving reasonably slow. But as it gets to the back of the channel into what they call the Shotgun, this tight passage, which is quite narrow and shallow, it goes through an absolute rate of knots. So the brief for that dive was to kind of get in, reef hook it onto the floor and look at the mantas. So I was incredibly lucky. I got reef hooked on and put myself over, and there's that manta literally sat on my head. And at the end of the dive, I was like, oh my God, that manta. And he was like, I didn't see it. I spent the whole time with the Shotgun gripping on the face in the rocks.
I saw nothing.
That's Komodo resort, that last in there. But yeah, incredible. It's an incredible place, you know. It's just, I mean, look at that for a dive resort. It's like something out of a James Bond film, isn't it? It's just such a beautiful place.
It is, for sure. So you've been, like we said there, you've been to some amazing destinations around the world. And I know this is probably going to be a really hard question again, but your most memorable diving moment?
I've actually decided I know what mine is. It was actually the last sort of dives that we've done before lockdown, and we dived with our friend Daryl in Australia, in Adelaide, and we really, really, really wanted to see the leafy sea dragons. And Daryl is not a dive guide, but he kind of planned our entire trip and put so much time and effort into it. And he kind of warned us. He said, look, people have been poaching the sea dragons, so we may not see them. And we got into the water, first dive, and a meter below the surface, we saw one straight away. And I just couldn't believe it. And it was then, you know, we saw that one, and then we moved further down and we saw another one, and we moved further down and we saw another one. And it was just the most incredible experience, because I was diving with my friend and Richard, and so it was just the three of us. And you know, you're in 5 meters of water, and you just watch these incredible creatures. So I think that would be my top experience.
Yeah. Do you know what? Just to add about that as well. I mean, Hailey mentioned Daryl. Now, Daryl was someone that we met on a liveaboard in Tibetaha. We haven't seen him since that liveaboard trip in 2007, but you know, like a lot of people you meet, you stay in touch on social media. So we hadn't seen him for 3 years, and we kept in touch. Said we was going to Australia. He took us in. You know, we stayed at his house with him and his wife for you know, a number of days. He planned this incredible, like it was like about 800 kilometers we did, didn't we? Over like 4 days.
Proper road trip.
The best spots. You know, planned everything. Got, you know, hired up the gear that we didn't have with us, like some of the thicker wetsuits. But yeah, but that dive Hailey's talking about is literally, it was the first dive in Adelaide. And I'd obviously prepared myself that, you know, no one has seen any leafy sea dragons for ages. So I was really prepared, you know, that we might not see anything, could be a bit of a washout. And we were on the surface, just about to go down. And, you know, we're all doing like, okay, we're all ready, yeah, okay, right, let's go down. And I think I was moving my camera from one end to the other. And I started dumping my air. And I hadn't even got my head fully submerged when Daryl started cracking his cracker thing underwater. And I'm back on the surface. Oh, what's happened? What's happened? Like, this literally underneath us. Honestly, I forgot about that. It's one of the most.
Yeah.
But then they just, it's like one of those dives where someone says, well, you might not see it, and then you see 8, and you're like, God, they're really common, aren't they? We're around for weeks. Yeah.
I think we were just lucky.
incredibly lucky. Like
Right.
most
Right place, right time.
Sorry.
Right place, right time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we were so lucky that whole trip. You know, we saw some really cool stuff. But I mean, most memorable. I can think of funny moments. I can, obviously Guadalupe's up there for me. The first whale shark that Hailey saw when we was in Tibetaha, that was a great dive. I'll never forget that. I remember a trip when we were doing our tech qualifications in the Red Sea down at Brothers, and Hailey passed our Tech 45 stuff, and our guide Raf from Blue Ocean Diving was trying to shake Hailey's hand to congratulate her underwater, and she was absolutely knocked off her brain. And it's like, being knocked is something you should take really seriously. And I think any scuba diver who's watching this has never seen or experienced narcosis. You kind of think, it'll never happen to you and never happen to you. But yeah, she was. She
just
didn't
a little bit.
What was going on? So
just a little.
It's like,
I thought he was talking about my computer, so I kept thinking he was talking about my computer. He just wanted to shake my hand, and I had no idea.
And definitely for me, truck. If you've been to Truck Mart, but the wrecks there, they are breathtaking.
Yeah,
they're World War wrecks, Second World War wrecks. So they've been there 75, 80 years. And despite the degradation through water over those years, there's not been a lot of salvage or pillage. There's still I think there's some images in here that Ross has got, but there's light bulbs still in sockets. There's medical kits. There's bits of airplane wreckage. There's just some incredible. The San Francisco Maru, the seabeds are 60 meters. The decks are sort of 54, 55. Meters below, you're 180 foot plus underwater, and then you're in a cargo hold full of landmines and tanks and trucks. It's mind blowing. It's just absolutely mind blowing. I mean, look, it's just an incredible place. Yeah, that's another place. If you get in the truck, it will blow your mind.
Yeah, you see, that's why I shouldn't really be talking to you, because I haven't been to Truck either.
Have you? Oh,
I love Truck. It was great.
You need to get that one.
Right, so here we go. We've got a few questions we're firing in amongst, I have to say, hordes of abuse that was aimed at you guys, which was very good.
Was it mostly at Richard, or was there some at me?
No, I have to say it was mostly at Richard. But
okay, that's right. Okay then.
So here we go from Kit. So, recommended location in the world for a first ever dive trip to learn the ropes.
Well, if you're in the UK, then the UK. I know we probably aren't the biggest advocates for UK diving. We are what you call wussy cold water divers. I'll dive in the UK if I have to, but I prefer to go on holiday when I've got warm water and viz. If you're going to go outside the UK, you know what? I don't think you can beat Egypt. As I said before, and I know you're a big advocate of Egypt too, Mark. You're going to get warm waters. You're going to see everything that you'd want to see on your training dives, in the sea. It's safe, the people are friendly, the food is fantastic, the weather's awesome, the water's warm. That'll be if you want to get out of the UK, then I'd somewhere like Egypt.
Yeah.
I think I'd go along with that one. Right, Simon Archer's got a good one here. Given travel restrictions, are you planning to do any diving in the UK instead of all your exotic locations? We were just talking about this before we came on air.
They're trying to convince me.
See what you've been missing.
I know. I really need to branch out and do more UK diving. I think Richard would be keen, but I'm what you call a fair weather diver. I like to be warm. So before this, Mark was trying to encourage me to get a dry suit. So I think we will. I think we'll have to explore some of the areas. We wanted to do the Scilly Isles, and we wanted to do the seals and things like that. So definitely think we will.
We've done some stuff. Some stuff. I've probably done about 15 dives in the UK. All of that's been in either a lake or a quarry. We can get away with water temperatures in a 7 mil. Okay, I mean I can deal with about 14 to 16 degrees, I guess, in a 7 mil. Hailey can go 5 mil in 30-degree water and then still moan that she's cold halfway through a dive. So I'll put this is on video. If anyone can get Hailey diving in a dry suit in the UK, I'm in.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else then, and then I would have definitely got in the water.
Right, challenge accepted,
Whoa,
but
what are you going with that?
just got to get you in the sea. Because getting in the quarry is good for training, but then we need to get you in the sea.
Yeah,
and then you can really see what you've been missing.
Okay.
So here we go. Here's a good final question. Tony Leach, what's your best photo? Where was it? And how long did it take you to get the shot?
Oh, wow. What a question.
Question.
I think it would have to definitely be the cuttlefish. I don't think we've got it on here, annoyingly, but it was one of those shots where you weren't prepared, and actually everyone was really focused on the blue ring octopus. And this was in the Philippines. It was, Rich, wasn't it? Malapascua, yeah. Everyone was focused on the blue ring octopus, and I kind of moved away from the group, and I was just kind of waiting to go in and take my shot. And there was this cuttlefish that was just sort of sat in front of me, minding its own business. And I was still pretty kind of getting used to my camera and not really sure kind of what to do. And I just turned around and started taking some photographs. And, the cuttlefish was okay for a while. And then you could tell, it wanted to go off and do something. And it was at that moment that it kind of lifted up its tentacles and kind of was about to move away. And it kind of does that when it's not feeling too comfortable. And I just took the photo, and it then shooted off and swam away. But I think for me, that was probably, the first time that I've kind of seen the behavior in an image, if that makes sense, and just the color and kind of the eye contact. So it was really kind of fluky. I probably should say, it took me hours to come up with this photograph and prepare myself. But I would say most of the shots that I love the most are those off the cuff kind of fluky moments, because you just don't expect them.
Do you know what? Hailey just touched on something really important there as well about animal behaviour. That's something that I love to catch on video sometimes. Is you can catch an image with a photograph that can kind of tell a story. But I remember we were back in the Philippines. It was Magic Oceans a couple of years ago, and we kind of found literally it was a barren sand, and there was a small bit of hard coral with an enemy had made a nest on it, and the fish were going backwards and forwards, brushing the current over the eggs. Luckily, I had my macro lens with me, so when you kind of see these, they're almost fish-like eggs. You can kind of see the eye of the anemone fish in the I don't know what you call it, the polyp or what do you call an anemone fish egg? A fish egg? I've got no idea. Anyone know?
If anyone knows.
Fish egg. But just kind of almost see like an embryo formed fish with the adults just going backwards and forwards, just brushing it with its with pectoral fin. It's an incredible thing to see. It's very much like a Blue Planet type thing, like behaviour fish. Like, do you remember Blue Planet a few years back when they had the pufferfish that made that intricate pattern in the sand as part of its mating ritual? To catch that on video, it's just you'll never witness that. You might stumble across it on a dive and go, "Oh look, someone's made a pattern in the sand," kind of thing. But
I like it. Right, a final one very quickly. Say you've got a great one. Have you two had any arguments? Don't like the smell of each other.
Have we had any arguments? We're both Virgos. We argue all the time. Usually because I don't clean as well as Richard. So it's usually,
are we talking about domestic or are we talking about diving?
I don't know. Probably both.
If you want to talk about domestic chores, I'm happy to have that conversation.
Still don't know how to do the washing machine.
Washing machine.
Washing machine. I think we spend a lot of time together. We work for the same company and we live together, so we've kind of got used to each other's kind of behaviors. And I think when diving, we've done so many dives together now that you just have a natural rhythm. Doesn't mean you don't have arguments. It's usually when I'm really cold or Richard's taking a long time to film something and I want to move on.
The arguments generally start because Hailey's taking a photo and I am shooting video. I generally do want like 2 or 3 minutes. So I always like to be at the back of a group, because if I'm at the front of the group, I'm always conscious of people over my shoulder. Oh, hurry up! And I don't like to be right. I want to get the shot that I want to get. So when we're diving, it's just the two of us. I always let Hailey go first because she'll follow the guide. He'll point stuff out. She'll photograph it, move, and I'll video. And then kind of by the time I've finished, I can see where she's leaving the next place. So I will kind of follow in a bit of a zigzag. We do have some arguments, and that's generally when we're getting told to hurry up because we are slow divers. You know, we've both got cameras. I'm shooting video. We're always at the back. We're always being told to hurry up. And, you know, Hailey wants to get her shot regardless of what I want to do. And my biggest pet peeve, and she knows about this, is that, right. Well, you will do because I'm about to say it. You'll take a photo of something sometimes, and there's other divers that do it. And then as you turn to fin away, there'll be a gentle brush of the fin, and then the sand goes poof.
That's not me. That's not me.
Oh, the video of my snowstorm I've got. Oh, but look, Hailey's amazing photo that she took. Yeah.
I'm going to kill you for that later.
I was just going to say, I think that's a great time to be leaving. It's a great time to be leaving it there. I think we'll be reading in the paper tomorrow about a domestic. Well, on that high point, that was a great way to end. I have to say thank you very much to Rich and Hailey for coming on. That was a very amusing evening. Final shout out to Actor 90, our sponsors for the show for tonight. Check out their website. They've got everything on there to do with rebreathers and tech gear. With us, we've got everyone getting back into diving now. We're going into the summer. Hopefully the weather's coming back. We can actually get out there. So we're going to give our live streams a little break for a couple of months. We will be back, but in the meantime, we're going to be uploading lots of stuff onto our YouTube channel. There's going to be some more scuba basics from Mark Newman. And we're also going to be putting up some kit reviews and some local diving adventures as we're getting out and about diving around the UK. So watch this space. But in the meantime, dive safe and we'll see you soon.